watch out for buy term and invest the difference. These are some of the things you need to know to see if this is the right strategy for you to put into your financial portfolio and your plan. Buy term and invest the difference has a few misnomers that they use in their marketing to get you to think it's the superior option, when the superior option is the one that's most aligned with you, where you're at, where you're going, what your vision is, what your goals are, and what you're trying to do financially, whether you're an employee, a business owner. There's no one-size-fits-all financial plan. So a lot of times you'll hear that from that group. A lot of them come from Primerica. Sometimes there's just advisors that are spewing that one-size-fits-all advice. So here's what you're going to want to consider when it comes to whether this is the right strategy for you. Buy term and invest the difference absolutely is cheaper up front, absolutely. But they're only telling you part of the story. The other part of the story is there's no free lunch in life insurance, as one of my mentors talks about. So if you're spending a lot up front, guess what happens at the end of that 10 or 20 or 30-year term? There's a multiple increase in the premium, right? I have a term policy. It went from $29 a month after the initial 10-year period. It has gone up, and if you look at the documentation that comes with the policy, it's about a 4x multiplier in year 11, and it continues to go up every single year. So you need to know that yes, it's cheap up front, but that doesn't make it the superior option. It means that you're going to have to spend a lot more on the back end of the policy if you want to retain the coverage. And for most people that I talk to, they're not excited about that option. When people get to be in their 40s and 50s and 60s and that term policy runs out and they no longer have insurance, and the buy term and invest the difference part, the invest the difference portion of that hasn't played out where they're super wealthy and they have all these millions in the bank where they can quote be self-insured and don't need the insurance anymore. They're between a rock and a hard place going, I need this life insurance, but I can no longer afford it. And that's the part that you don't hear in the marketing around buy term and invest the difference, is the real world experiences. And this is why there are white papers, college studies done on the ineffectiveness of buy term and invest the difference, and why it typically does not work for most people, because it's not even that the strategy is bad per se. The strategy on paper is good. It's people's habits, their discipline, their mindset. Are they actually going to execute on investing the difference, right? And what is the difference? The difference is between if you bought term and it's cheap versus if you bought a permanent policy that's more expensive for the same type of death benefit, because we're not comparing apples to apples, right? So to talk about price is only, again, part of the discussion. Sometimes it does make sense to have permanent insurance. Many times it actually does. And there are a lot of ways you don't have to pay on a permanent policy for the rest of your life. There's reduced paid up, there's 10 pay policies, there's even single pay policies. It's not as popular, but there are ways to own a permanent life insurance policy on yourself that locks in your insurability, that locks in what you wanted to accomplish throughout your entire lifetime. It provides your heirs a death benefit and a legacy transfer and a cash value growth through the time that you have the policy. That may be the right strategy for you. It also might be the right strategy for you to have a term policy that maybe is with you while you're employed, while you have a mortgage, while maybe you're in your early years and you can't afford a permanent policy. And in that case, it makes sense to do something called convertible term, where you can actually get your foot in the door, lock in your insurability while you have good health, while you're younger, while your costs are lower for that same insurance. And then as your income increases or your situation, rises, and you're able to afford permanent policy, at that point, then you can go ahead and convert some or all of that term policy into permanent coverage, which is the flexibility and control a lot of people are actually after, not just the low price tag that is seductive in the marketing. And I only have to pay $39 a month for $1 million life insurance policy. It sounds really good on paper, but the mechanics of it and the real world application of it a lot of times do not align with what somebody's wanting to do. And when they hear the full story on what does this mean long term, what does this mean towards the later years of my policy, when I'm ready to retire, what does that look like? And when you actually give someone the full experience of what it means, a lot of times they're like, that's no longer the right strategy for me. Let's look at my other options. So that's something you need to be armed with if you're looking at a permanent policy versus a term. If you're working with somebody that's really pushing buy term and invest the difference, and you're wanting to know, like, is this the best strategy? Or maybe you already have a term policy, or you've been given an illustration as you're leading into it, maybe from a Primerica agent. Get with me, let's do a policy audit, let's look that over. Let's see if you're really getting the lowest price. Let's see if you're getting the best bang for your buck. Let's see if the strategy is aligned with who you are. I guarantee you that Primerica agent did not ask you questions about who you are, where you're going, is this aligned, what are your goals and vision for your life. I guarantee those things are missing from the conversation. So let's do a policy audit. Let's make sure that you're getting what you need. And if it is term, let's make sure you're getting the lowest premium for the best benefits and the best death benefit. There's a link in my description here. You can do that. And love to talk to you guys soon. Take care.